You know where you are?
This is Appetite for Distortion.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 414. My name is Mirando. With me sometimes is my co-host, Baby Brownstone, Harrison Rex. Look at him, he's so cute. So if you're watching this on Zoom, he's going to be 4 months next week as I'm recording this. Can't say anything yet. I've been trying to teach him to say Axel or Slash or Corn Shucker or absurd. Look at you, you're on the radio. We'll see if it lasts. But I wanted to do a review of last night's New Jersey show at MetLife Stadium, while it's still as fresh as I can, as fresh as it is in my mind, and bring Baby Brownstone while he's calm, and maybe Steve, because I missed him last night. That's what I found myself doing a lot last night, because Guns N' Roses, more so than the Metallica show, I saw more kids there. Certainly not Harrison's age, but I remember looking during November Rain and the second solo, the big crescendo. This dad was air guitaring, very very white boy-ish, like we all do. You could tell when you're someone like me or this guy that doesn't play guitar and you try to play air guitar. It just looks so lame, but we're having fun. And he's with his two kids, probably around 10 years old. One has the big headphones on, one doesn't, and he's also doing air guitar. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I wanted to enjoy GN'R like that. And that was on my mind. So I feel like that actually affected my time there, which was strange. I've never obviously had that feeling before. So to go back a little bit, I appreciate those of you who asked me to come to like a tailgate or meet up in the parking lot before, but just got there too late. I just had to wait for a babysitter, Baby Brownstone. And so I left Queens around, 4:45. And what was great, though, unlike Metallica, where it took us nearly 2 hours to get there, took us like maybe an hour, less than that. So yeah, I know, because Metallica was on a Friday night. So my wife and I were like, we're never going to a concert in New Jersey on a Friday night ever again. And this was a Tuesday night, so I'm sure that played a role. But yeah, very easily was get into the stadium. And also, unlike Metallica, I was able to get a handicap spot. They weren't sold out like with Metallica. Yeah, I know. You're going to see Metallica soon. You're going to see Guns N' Roses soon. Hopefully, well, this is going to be part of the conversation today, is that I hope GN'R continues to tour after this leg. Because as we've discussed, Slash says this is going to be it for a while. They're going to make work on new music and all that fun stuff. So I hope it's not it. As he's barely not even 4 months yet. If they tour next year, yeah, I guess it probably could take him, but it would be a risk, because you also see one dad with his kid asleep on his shoulder, leaving maybe like before the encore. So the kids also determine the amount of time you're going to spend. And all of you that are parents are like, yeah, it's not always up to you. You leave when the kid wants to leave. So, I wouldn't have minded. I guess would see parents and their kids enjoying songs. And I'm like, I just kept thinking of this guy. So, we get there. We're in the parking lot for a little bit, just kind of get our bearing. Yeah, he is ready. He is screeching like Axl. He can hit octaves. Axl can't anymore. We'll talk about that also. And I'll talk about it in the most appropriate way. I think, as I'm getting into some Twitter conversations right now, or X conversations. So got there, missed a couple of the songs by the Pretenders. It sucks that we were in line for the merch during I'll Stand By You. And my wife was kind of like, oh, the one song I wanted to hear. But we would have been racing to our seats to even get there. So she's like, you know what, let's just wait in line. At least this way I can hear it. And Chrissy Hynde is awesome. She looks and sounds like how you grew up Which, how does that happen? She's what, 71? I know she's a lot older than you, buddy, but she sounds fantastic. The band was solid, sounded great. And then, wow, did we get a surprise? No, it was not, perhaps. Spoiler alert, even though they apparently, excuse me, they rehearsed perhaps twice, and I'm reading without vocals, without Axel there. I thought that they were going to play it. I really did. So that was also added to my mood. So I was missing Harrison during the show, and I was almost expecting perhaps to happen. It did not. But one of the biggest surprises last night was out of nowhere. You know, you hear McBob introduce somebody, you know, the first comedian to sell out Madison Square Garden. And I'm like, is Andrew Dice Clay about to come out? And he did. Andrew Dice Clay did like a 20-minute set. And the best part of that, I think, other than, because I've never seen Dice, and I've tried to get him on the show. I have. So it's when people were like, why is Andrew Dice Clay here? Like my wife. And I'm like, well, they're friends. And he also claims that he is the reason why Axel and Slash are back together again. So he comes out. And I'm like cracking up laughing. And if you know Dice's material, it is as filthy could be. And I put a video up on my social media, me cracking up, and my wife and the woman next to me just horrified. It was a mixture of like the dudes laughing and all the women just like horrified. Like, what is this? The old lady next to me was like, I'm disappointed in Guns N' Roses for having this guy. I don't know what to tell you, ma'am. I don't think you really understand the band if you're offended by a Dice Clay appearance. It was unexpected. He's certainly a lot more filthy than listening to Absurd live. But think about that. You're seeing Guns N' Roses, who sings, I'm not going to say it in front of this guy, you know, earmuffs, dude, but lyrics of even It's So Easy, you know, there's curse words. They've always been, and you look at Slash's social media, it's all inappropriate. It's, even though there's families there, it's not necessarily a family band per se. So, to backtrack a little bit, so I saw a couple comments from people that said they saw me. You know, I appreciate. Let me just say this first: every single person that when I posted on social media, I'm going there, and even leading up to it, no matter where you were in the world, to have just random, you know, I know your followers and listeners of this podcast, so just take this as just like a loose term, but strangers, just wish you just to have the best time and just make wonderful comments to me about just having a good time seeing Guns N' Roses. It means a lot. I felt like you were all there with me, which many of you were in the stadium. Yeah. With better seats to me. And I'll mention that in a second. But just thank you to everybody who reached out just to say have a good time. That means a lot. That means people are listening. People are, you know, liking what I'm doing, because this was just started out as a Guns N' Roses podcast between me and Ian. This was never going to be about me and Baby Brownstone and everything like that. But it's become that. We've become one, I guess, because I'm the head of it and I involve you guys. This is our podcast, but it just means a lot to me. So I just wanted to, if I forget to say that, just thank you to everybody who just wished I had just rooting me on, having a good time. And, I hope you get perhaps, and just have a great time, and yada, yada, yada. So we were waiting in the parking lot, and I mentioned before, I've started to use a wheelchair going to events or even like an airport. I found myself going to an airport, just ended up like asking for a wheelchair because it was easier for my wife, who was carrying everything, so she can just throw things on me in the chair, and just the amount of stress. And I've had this for years. You could say it's long overdue, because I wear leg braces. I have since I was 10ish. I've used a cane the past 15-20 years, and I've been prone to falling. I have fallen at concerts. It's happened. It's at the worst of times, and those are stories for other times. But this is it. I'm okay, with the wheelchair now because I have Harrison, I have my wife, so I'm really not thinking about what other people think, which has took over so much of my life for the longest time. What are people gonna think? Who cares, right? You shouldn't care. So now I don't care. So we get to our seats, which I screwed up. I don't know who else's fault this is, but mine. I bought. I didn't want to see where I sat with Metallica, which were like $100 seats, high up. You could see everything, but I wanted to be closer. I wanted to actually see and not feel like Guns N' Roses were ants, and that's why I feel like all my experiences were, other than Axel DC and when I saw Velvet Revolver when I was like up close. Every time they've been ants, and I don't want that experience. And I wanted a different experience this time around. However, even though I spent like $200, they really weren't that much closer. I mean, technically they were, but they were still ants to me. And I also got too much on the side of the stage, so that was a rookie mistake for me, I guess. So it was kind of like obstructed at times. Could not see Frank. I can only really see one of the big monitors, which was on a diagonal. And it wasn't even like I was the last row of off to the side, the slashes side. I wasn't. There were plenty of people to my right. So that was one thing I noticed right away, is that no matter where you were for Metallica, with the in the round and the amount of speakers and screens that they had, no matter where you were, you could see everything. Guns N' Roses was not like that. If you were on the sides, it was a little bit of a struggle. So that also affected my time. And shout out to the lady that worked at MetLife, because apparently, and I don't know how this happened, I guess this is a screw up by Ticketmaster. I bought the seats in front of the handicap seats, which would have required me going down a couple stairs, and there's a railing, so I could have done it. Yeah, I'm not quadriplegic, so thankfully, but I didn't bring my cane with me. I was just in a wheelchair. And she said to me, to us, she understood what was happening, and she saw I was in a wheelchair, was not going to force me to go down there. She's like, stay here unless somebody comes, and then we're going to move you somewhere else, and everything's going to be fine. It was going to be in the same proximity. I might even have had a better view, but my wife's like, let's just stay. Let's not cause a ruckus. And nobody ever came. That was the only really empty part of the stadium I saw, were the suites, but everywhere else, it looked really packed. I know. We could have brought you, buddy. His first words coming. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. Home fuck. Home fuck. Home fuck. Oh, we curse. I try not to do it. I tell my wife whenever she curses, she's like, I'm like, stop. He'll absorb it. He's gonna learn anyway. He's gonna learn anyway. But I try to. Why don't you say nice words like mathematics or world peace or something? Axel, Buckethead, Buckethead, Buckethead. So, we just sat in those seats the entire time, and we were never moved, thankfully. But in those are the only empty seats were the suites. I was worried because it was much different getting into MetLife Stadium than it was for Metallica. Metallica was packed, and GN'R didn't seem that way. However, bless you, your first official radio sneeze. I'm gonna play that for you when you're older. I'm gonna be like, that's you sneezing when you're 4 months, and he's drooling over me. This is what happens when you get a baby co-host. Drool is okay. Just try not to poop on me, please. Oh boy, but don't poop. So, I thought it was gonna be a lot less people, and when you go for the Pretenders, there was just like more than half full. Same thing with Dice, but when GN'R came, it was packed. So it was a pretty full MetLife Stadium. Again, it wasn't the same as Metallica because behind the stage, there's all those empty seats because it's behind the stage, where Metallica filled up everything. It was just a different show. So Metallica, just I wish I saw GN'R first, honestly, because like Metallica was wow. I mean, hopefully maybe when GN'R tours again, they do something a little different like that. So the show, so Dice Clay was great for the men. Women, it was horrifying. I went live a couple times with the Instagram, so you could see the beginning with "It's So Easy," and you're probably going to hear me say, those who watch on Instagram live, as soon as "It's So Easy" was over, I'm like, all right, gotta shut this off, gotta enjoy this next song just with my own eyes, no phone. Bad Obsession. got to hear Bad Obsession live for the first time in my life. And wow, no, that was it's perfection. It really is perfection. It's as close as I can feel to it's it's a bad obsession. Always messing. Oh, I just hit his head with the microphone. I did the last episode. You okay, buddy? You gonna cry? No? It's okay. It's okay. We'll see if we make it through this entire review. It was like feeling like I was in the Use Your Illusion era. And I've never experienced that. I'm like, this is Bad Obsession. Oh no, we did. Oh, did he cry? No. It's a bad obsession. Always messing my mind. And people, if you're listening on podcast, you're like, I don't want to hear you sing, and I don't want to hear a baby cry. So, I'm sorry. If you're watching, as you know, I like to make these podcasts different for everybody, and this is different. Having a baby, I'm bouncing the baby, bouncing Baby Brownstone. He's a triple B right now. It was a religious experience. Bad Obsession. And I'll say this, and this really lends itself to what I've started tweeting about. With, I guess maybe it was one tweet when somebody asked Catcher in the Rye. That was the other big surprise. And somebody asked how it was. And I said, I'll explain when I do a review, but man, it kills me. I love Axl, root for him. Clearly, he works his ass off and gives 100% every single show, but Father Time is undefeated. Some songs last night were great. Others, I was just glad to see him having fun. And those are my words, even though I'm reading it, but I want to get them right. So Slither is a big example to what I'm going to talk about. I haven't really enjoyed Slither. I enjoy for the fact that they're doing Velvet Revolver and they're having fun, and it's the historical meaning of it. But it's just his voice wasn't working for me with that. I've often campaigned for other Velvet songs that I think could fit his voice well. However, and maybe he's done this recently, and I'm just noticing it now that he's yawning. He had Melissa and Duff kind of carry the weight of the chorus along with him. So it kind of helped him out and it didn't force him to try to hit those high notes that when you're 20 versus 60, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just what it is. It's adjusting. And the example I use all the time is like when you're a pitcher or you're a ball player, you just have to adjust and you can still be successful. It's just different. There's nothing wrong at all with that. There's nothing shame. I can't do, this disability aside, I can't do things that I did 5 years ago or, let alone 20 or 30 years ago. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a criticism. It's not being negative. It's just a matter of fact. We are human beings and this is life. So I was happy. And it was, I think, the best version of Slither I have seen live because of that adjustment. And it made me enjoy it. It wasn't taking anything away from Axl. It just said, hey, let me use my support players to really amplify this. And Melissa, wow, she has really added a lot to this band. And I just love the fact that she's in this band. And I hope it keeps going forward. I think she was a great addition. Chris Pittman, obviously extremely talented. But it was, I think, a blessing in disguise. I think Melissa is just a fantastic addition to this version of Guns N' Roses, and to see a female up there, to hear her vocals kind of harmonize with Duff to go along with Axl, I think is a great approach. And it's an approach I think needs to happen on more songs. So, and it's not just me saying this. If you listen to this podcast, I go out of my way to look for the positive. I really do. I'm not going to be one of these negative people that goes online and makes harsh criticisms or tell people to retire or to hang it up or you call them names. And I'm not that, but I'm not a liar. I don't want to lie to myself. I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to lie to Baby Brownstone. There are some adjustments that on songs that need to be made. And Welcome to the Jungle is might be the biggest example. And it was said last episode, a review by Dane. And I kind of made a cringe face when he said he didn't like Welcome to the Jungle. And it's hit or miss. And I think for me, last night, it was a miss. And I saw my wife's face she started to tape the song to send to her sister and then stopped taping it because she's like, I don't want to send her this. And I'm being honest with you. The band sounded great, but Axel, I mean, he with the lower register, and she kept saying that the way he's singing this in lower register, even with absurd, she's like, he sounds amazing. He sounds perfect. Why doesn't he do that more? And I said, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. And it's all pure fan speculation. I think what Axel is doing, and you see it in his face, that was 110% with every single note. Oh my God. I think he's just trying to sing it in the same pitch or the same area, the way the song was written, and the concentration, and I can only imagine what the muscles in his throat are doing at that time to kind of funnel his vocal cords and muscles up. Is he falling asleep? Oh, is he falling asleep? I thought his eyes were closing. By the way, when Baby Brownstone he starts falling asleep and his eyes start to roll back in his head, like I call them Undertaker eyes. Hopefully you understand the reference. So Undertaker eyes, yeah. Go to sleep, baby. Shh. I said to my wife, like, do you think he would have been crying last night? She's like, no, he probably would have been asleep. He only gets cranky when it's quiet. So maybe he would have fell asleep. Uh, but yeah, it kills me to say this because I am an Axel fan always. When it was that silly debate of Axel versus Slash when they were broken up, not that I sided with Axel over Slash, but I was always an Axel guy. He's the guy that really attracted me to this band, vocally, lyrically, personality wise, the way he speaks, everything. I'm a fan of Axl Rose. I had a listener ask me, would you rather have Miles Kennedy or someone else sing these songs? No, no. I don't care if they are a literal, like they're squeaks or, Axl loses his voice. It's Axl Rose. I would still pay to see him. I want to see him. There's only one. He's one in a million. I only want to see Axl Rose. And I know it's just not the Axl Rose of 1987, 1991. It's just not. And that's okay because it's not 1987. It's not 1991. It's 2023. He's 61. Like you shouldn't be expecting that. It's not like putting on a movie. It's not like putting on Predator in 1987 and then putting it on again in 2023. It's the same movie. So yeah, Axel could do that if he was using backing tracks, but he's not. It's the real guy. He's really singing, and I would always prefer that. But it's just lends those questions that have been asked by a lot of fans. Should the shows be shorter? Would that help his voice? Kind of like a long distance, sprints versus, a jog kind of situation. I don't know. I mean, I love the. Then you feel shortchanged with the amount of because they played for 3 hours plus last night, and when I saw Metallica, I'm like, oh, only 2 hours. That's it. So it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like you got to have a longer GNR experience, fun. I mean, I still have fun. I don't want that to be lost at all. But I would be remiss if this was my 10th Guns N' Roses show last night. And I'm lucky to have seen this band 10 times since 2002. And I wore the shirt that I got that night, or the original shirt I bought that night. I probably said this before. I cut it up and I put it on a jean jacket and I fucked it up. So I ended up buying the same shirt off eBay. So it's still the original shirt from that show. I just it's just not mine originally, but I probably was the only person wearing a 2002 Chinese Democracy shirt last night. I love that in a sea of the Bullet logos or the Appetite Cross logo shirts, and there's just me in that lion, Chinese Democracy shirt, like holding on to the globe, and just I saw one guy point at me, being like, "Oh wow, oh I love that." So, yeah, and then now I was tweeting along with a lot of you guys, Xing along and Instagramming and Facebooking when I can, and I appreciate everybody just wishing me have again a good time, and they were asking when perhaps was going to happen, and I had my wife at the ready. I was like, okay, if perhaps happens, I'm going to go live on Facebook, and you're going to videotape it. So we're going to have 2 recordings of it. So like every time a song would end, I would get like, quick draw McGraw, get my phone out, get it ready. I found myself putting my phone down more. So even though I did social media a lot through it, I always just found myself just watching, spending more time watching Richard Fortus, how fast his fingers go. Wow. And just spending more time watching Slash, just like it's just like an honor to watch him play, and it's also an honor to watch Axel. And I'd be also remiss if I didn't say that this is probably the best he's ever looked physically that I've seen him. I mean, I've never think he's looked bad. I'm not one of those people. I don't think he was ever fat. I hate when people say that stuff. He was just like a lot of us putting on a little bit of a dad bod, and you're not 20, but he looks fantastic. I think he has a different cut on those black t-shirts that he goes through. He looks great. Hair looks great. I like those new sunglasses he puts on during the kind of like rose colored glasses during November Rain. He looked fantastic. He had great smile on the entire night. Anything Goes was really fun. That was a fun watch. That's on actually Instagram. I taped Anything Goes and Civil War, so you can watch those. I put up It's So Easy, and then Anything Goes into Civil War, which he did a great job there. So just a lot of interesting choices, because you would hear sometimes the microphone really break through and loud when he would really hit that lower register and like shout into it. But there were times when he was going for that higher register where the microphone wasn't as high. So maybe that's a compensation or something that I'm hearing that it doesn't exist, but that's kind of what I noticed. Like he got really loud at times, but again, that would be with the lower register. So I don't know if there's so that could be a different approach. And then we got Catcher in the Rye, which was a surprise. I was hoping, because for the way this tour has been going, I was hoping for There Was a Time. I was hoping for Prostitute. Catcher in the Rye is great, but that's a song like Welcome to the Jungle. It just it wasn't work. It just didn't work for me. Which for me, like, who am I? But it just didn't. I don't know. A better song selection at that time, maybe earlier in the set. And this comment, this one guy made, delete this tweet, the one before where I was talking about Axel, how Father Time is undefeated. Unfortunately, I root for him. I'm always going to be a fan. Look, I know interviewing Axel is a pipe dream. I dream about it. I really do. Even before this podcast, it's just one of those, like, what would I ever do in this situation? And I'm a fan. This is not just a podcast thing. I'm a fan. I would love to speak. He's like many of you, a chance to meet the man. Oh, and I could have stayed. I saw this morning. A lot of fans stayed late after the show and managed to get autographs from the entire band. If I knew that was a possibility, I want to say I would have stayed, but at the same time, I had a babysitter, and I was also tired. Like, I'm getting old, so I don't know if I would have done that. So awesome for those fans who got to stay and got autographs from the entire band. I saw this one person get Axel's autograph on the side of their head, and they're going to get it tattooed. So I don't know if I would have done that, but that's pretty cool, man. That's a memory literally forever in your brain, on your brain. But yeah, I just don't I feel like I'm saying something wrong, you know. I feel like I'm saying something offensive, and I don't want to do that. I'm trying to find the right phrasing and to talk about what's happening. I mean, he's 61. It's not the same. We've all had these conversations before, but what am I supposed to? Am I supposed to lie to myself and be like, that was the best version I've ever heard? I'd be lying to myself and lying to you. It wasn't. But that being said, I would rather have seen that than an Axel impersonator. I was happy to see them perform it live. I still think it's quite just think about it. just like at the beginning, you go from a song from Appetite for with It's So Easy, then you go into Bad Obsession, Use Your Illusion, then you go to Chinese Democracy, then you go to Velvet Revolver. I mean, the mix of these songs from a band that was so deeply broken. And I think and that's part of the experience is that this band was broken. And when you see them up there, not only smiling and enjoying themselves, especially Axel, is that they're embracing the music that they made when they were broken. So to see Slash play Catcher in the Rye, I think is a trip. It's a trip. I pay for the experience. That's part of the experience. I'm not going there to be the Simon Cowell to Axel. Not at all. I'm not. Who am I? I can't sing. And you see it in his face. It's not how Vince Neil was. Maybe I've been hearing better reports now, and I don't like saying it about Vince Neil either. He's Vince Neil. He's from Motley Crue. Are you? No. Am I? No. But when you could tell some musicians are maybe out of shape or not putting in the effort or they're hungover, none of that with Axel. You could see it in his face, 110%. The professionalism, just a guy that's been doing it for decades. You could tell that this is the guy. This is the Axl Rose. This is a hero to many. This is perhaps the last rock star, and I'm witnessing him live. So that's always going to supersede any of those like, oh man, he didn't sound that great on that song, or this doesn't sound like the album, or that. No, it's all about the overall experience. So I really still encourage everyone to see Guns N' Roses while they can. I really want to take, the sleeping Baby Brownstone now. Look at you. You fell asleep in the middle of a radio show. Oh, by the way, I never posted the picture. There was a guy, and this was at Metallica. He fell asleep next to me, and I was going to post a picture of him. But then I'm like, you know what? That's kind of like shaming. Then I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll cover his face. But he was also wearing suspenders and had like a really big gut. And like people would think I'm making fun of that. But he fell asleep during like Battery. Like, how does that happen? But Baby Brownstone's different. He'll fall asleep wherever. Or maybe it's the smooth sounds of my voice, isn't it? Oh, don't have your head fall. Don't wake up. You hear him snoring? Oh, he's so cute. So I'm just never gonna be that. And I hope what I'm saying now is understood by the fans, because I'm an Axl fan. I'm an Axl apologist, if anything. I try not to be, because we're all human. We all have flaws. No one is perfect. No one is perfect. Even Axl, and no one. But I feel like if I say anything less than perfect, I'm saying something wrong, and I'm ruining a chance to ever interview Axl or Slash or Duff. And that breaks my heart. I mean, who knows? I mean, I would hope not. If I had a chance to interview any of them, I would never ask about Axl's voice or anything in the negative, because that's not a place to focus. In this interview, this episode, it's the review, and I'm being honest with you. I'm just talking to you, me to you. If you have a show that you're going to the rest of the summer, go. Do not, resell your ticket. Please go. You will have a great time. It's just if you're listening to this podcast, we are the hardcore nerd Guns N' Roses fan. And we all know, we all have ears, but I'm not going to lean so far to the right to say so what some fans are. Retire, pack it up. He's lost it. This, none of that. He's still a performer, a great performer. And you see it in his face, the way he's moving. Everything, just all the amount of effort, which as a viewer you appreciate that. You don't want someone mailing it in. I'll never forget, and this was back in Odd Comparison, but when I saw Avril Lavigne back in college, I remember thinking to myself, she just stands there behind the mic. She doesn't really move. I'm like, that's kind of lame. Like, you're 20, like run around, do something. And Axl's doing that at 61. Even like with Ozzy, he was always like this. His moving around, he would like jump up and down a couple times, go off the mic, clap, and go back to the mic. He's been doing that forever. But Axel, man, he's still running around like he's like it's Use Your Illusion. Like, what if he does the in the round? Is he going to be running around like it's a mile? Like I don't know. So I don't want, he should keep doing what he's doing, but it's just interesting where there have been adjustments on some songs, and you're like, okay, why did you make an adjustment on this song? Because you knew something needed to be beefed up or it needed to be approached differently, but not on others. The big thing is a Sweet Child of Mine, where that's also a hard song to sing. However, every single time, and I say this, when Slash starts playing those chords, the entire place stands up. All the phones come out. It is one of those moments that just appreciate the crowd. Same thing with Welcome to the Jungle. But it's interesting for the us fans who, oh, the set list is always the same. It's not, because when I'm looking around and they're playing Hard School, they're playing Absurd, they're playing Wichita Lineman. No one knows. They're very Wichita Lineman. Some people knew, but it just seemed like nobody knew what was going on. Oh, and I will say this: the highlight I think for me last night, other than Bad Obsession and Pretty Tied Up, which I finally both those are the songs I wanted to see. I said that before the tour I think started. What were the three songs you want to hear live, not including a new song? And I said Pretty Tied Up, Bad Obsession, and Get in the Ring. No Get in the Ring, but I got two out of the three that I really wanted to hear. But Wichita Lineman, You Could Fight Me. I love that song. I hope it's on an album. I think that was one of the highlights for me. His voice and the band sound perfect on that song. It makes me want an acoustic tour from them, and more stripped down, just tour from them. I didn't go to that Skin and Bones. I was too young. I was 10 for the Skin and Bones tour in 93. But wow, just on the way on the line. Oh God, I apologize. But just I felt like when I was singing and he would hit those notes, like it just filled up the entire arena and it was just perfect. So that was one of the major highlights for me was Wichita Lineman. Who would have thought a Glenn Campbell cover would be a highlight at a Guns N' Roses show? But no, Night Train killed it. I mean, the encore, it was a really a fun show. Coma was a lot of fun. But yeah, like it's just what a lot of people have been saying. And I don't want to be, well, I'm never going to be negative. I'm not going to be the guy that pretends everything is perfect when it's not. Like I'm just have my head in the sand. So, I mean, that's what rock and roll is. So it was in that way a perfect rock and roll show where there were things that were like, okay, even with Slash at times, I'm like, was that the right note? Like, and I don't know. I'm not a musician. I'm not a guitar player. I have no idea. I'm like, was that the right note? All right, like, whatever. I'm still enjoying it. So it was still a great time. I got a couple of shirts. I got the blue one and the one that had the lithograph on the back. Not a huge fan of the lithograph either. It was a Thomas Edison theme. And by the way, didn't Thomas Edison like steal half his ideas? But that's another story. All the lithos were sold out by the time I got there. I don't think I would have gotten it anyway. But the shirt was cool. It's one of the ones that have like a front print, like in the corner, like a pocket print, and then the one in the back. So I got a couple shirts. I want to get a shout out to a listener who offered to pay for my merch. I can't do that. I appreciate it. If it was the difference between, feeding Baby Brownstone, like we were down to his last diaper and we couldn't afford it. Yeah, I would appreciate some of the offers that I get from listeners. Hey, if you buy me a lithograph, I'll pay for your, I'll pay you back, of course, and I'll pay you on top of that, something else. Or this listener, me, I don't want to wake him up by moving my hands too much. I want to read the email and give this guy a shout out. Larry. So Larry, thank you so much. You deserve a shout out on the podcast. Offer to pay for my merch. Thank you, but I'll be okay. If you want to buy and see, I moved and it woke him up. No. Oh, see, I should have moved. Oh no, it's Axel. It's Axel, Axel, Axel. He's Axel. He's screaming. He's screaming, screaming, screaming. So, well, don't worry. This review is going to be over. See, I shouldn't have moved. See, Larry, I woke up Baby Brownstone just to give you a shout out. So, I mean, overall, it was great. I want to, yeah, I saw fans post that they met the band after, and I don't know. Again, I'm disappointed. I've never met Axel. I met Slash and Duff outside a Velvet show and got their autographs. But I guess hope what I'm saying doesn't lose any of you. And that's first and foremost, because you're always going to get honesty here. I'm always going to be Team Guns N' Roses. I'm always going to be Team Axel. I root for this band. I root for him. I hope they keep touring. I want to take Harrison as many times as long as they tour. I'm going to take Harrison as soon as he's old enough. And I want to go again. I do want to go again to see them, 10 times. And that's not enough for me to see Guns N' Roses. But I don't want to be a fake, and I just, not that I ever expect Axel, Slash, or Duff to ever hear these podcasts, but we've spoken about, maybe management having a certain perception of me. Just know that I'm an honest person and I mean well. And Axel, keep being you, keep kicking ass. I'd rather see Axl Rose than Miles Kennedy or any other rando sing these songs. I don't care if it's perfect. I don't care if it doesn't sound like the record. That's Axl Rose up there. And there's only one Axl Rose. He's one in a million. He's one in a million. Oh, by the way, I played that's my wife. I don't know if everyone does this because sometimes they feel like it ruins the concert for them, but they listen to the band on the way to the show. So, and we did that with Metallica and Pantera, and we did that with GN'R. So One in a Million comes on. And I was like, oh, they're not going to play this one live. She's like, why not? Just you wait and listen. That was a fun conversation. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this New Jersey MetLife review. I want to see them again, man. I hope they keep touring. Perhaps we will get perhaps by week's end. We don't know. There are a lot of rumors going around about this. The song is off Touch Tunes now. So if you go to a bar and you try to plug it in, it's not going to be up there. It makes you wonder, was this done on purpose to generate interest? You don't know with this band. That's what I love about it. You just don't know what you're going to get. The good, the bad, the ugly. Just that's Guns N' Roses. And that's what I want in my rock bands. That is what I want. And that's what I'm going to continue to want. That's what I'm going to raise this guy on. Rock and roll, rock and roll, rock and roll. Yeah, man. All right. Sorry. I do too much of his narration in life. He doesn't have a personality yet, other than being cute. Right? See, this is a radio microphone. Say something. Say your first word. This is it. This is time. This is the time. Okay. Nothing. Nothing. All right. So that does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. Next episode, we're going to be interviewing Brendan Small from Death Clock, Metalocalypse. I already recorded that one, and I'll let you know that's a fun interview. And he loved talking about Guns N' Roses. Not like, obviously I interview a lot of musicians, not always with the strongest GNR ties, but he loved talking about Appetite for Destruction and Slash being on the show. So that was a really fun episode. And we'll see. We're going to do more reviews. I've had more of you reach out and just thank you. That means, again, it means so much to me that people are listening. It's one thing where it's from the listeners and the fans I see on Facebook. It's the familiar names, and thank you for sticking with me all these years. But it's the new ones. Hey, I don't know you. Just getting new people all the time. It's just so cool. And we're going to keep growing. We're going to keep growing, just like Baby Brownstone. All right. Also, a couple new episodes of Appetite for Horror, my horror spinoff, are up there. Most recently, an interview with Sarah Wayne Callies, who played Laurie in The Walking Dead. That was a really fun interview. So those can be found wherever you get your podcasts. Also on the Appetite for Distortion YouTube page, which I encourage you to please subscribe to. Lots of video, over 800 videos up there. Of course, full interviews and highlights and concert experiences and all that fun stuff. I'm trying to think if there's any other interviews that I have coming up. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm told it's going to happen. John 5 is supposed to happen sometime in the future. We just don't know yet. He's a little bit busy with Motley Crue at the moment, and just going to keep going. With Baby Brownstone, he makes sometimes doing these interviews a little bit more like I have to be able to play a little Tetris, like fit in my schedule and see when I can hold him, when my wife can hold him, when she's here. Or it's just sometimes it's difficult, but we've been cranking him out, right, buddy? You cry sometimes, but that's okay. Don't you cry tonight? No, say something. Say something. Okay, nothing. I put him on the spot, and nothing happened. That would have been great though if he actually said his first word on an episode. Let's see if that happens. So stick around for that too. So that does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. When will you see the next one? Well, in the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.